Let's talk about the 4 years between 1918 and 1922. In that short time, a lawyer, just back from South Africa, introduced an idea to the world. An idea so powerful it would challenge the mightiest empire on earth and completely rewrite the rules of protest. In this explainer, we're diving into how Mahatma Gandhi's first major campaigns in India created the blueprint for nonviolent revolution. I mean, really think about that question. This was the challenge. The British Empire wasn't just some far-off government. It was the world's superpower, with all the military and economic might that implies. So how on earth could an unarmed population, a colonized people, even begin to fight back? Well, Mahatma Gandhi thought he had the answer. He had a different kind of weapon for a very different kind of war. And that weapon was called satyagraha. Now, he developed this idea during his fight against racism in South Africa. And let's be clear, this is not passive resistance. It's not about just sitting there and taking it. No, this was an active force, a truth force. It's a blend of nonviolence, or ahimsa, a fierce dedication to truth, and absolute fearlessness. The whole point wasn't to crush your opponent, but to change their heart by willingly accepting suffering yourself without ever fighting back. After perfecting this in South Africa, Gandhi was about to test it on the biggest stage imaginable, India. So when Gandhi got back to India in 1915, he didn't just jump into the fray. He did something pretty unusual. For an entire year, he traveled the country, mostly in silence, just watching and listening. He was learning. But by 1917, that year was up. It was time to move from observation to action. He launched 3 local campaigns, one right after the other, and each one was like a field test for his radical new idea. And just look at how fast this all happened. First, in 1917 at Champaran, he unleashes civil disobedience. And it works. He gets an abusive farming system for indigo farmers shut down. A few months later, in Ahmedabad, he tries a brand new tactic, the hunger strike. Boom, he wins a 35% wage increase for factory workers. Then, right after that in Kheda, he rolls out non-cooperation, getting peasants to just refuse to pay unfair taxes during a drought. 3 campaigns, 3 different tools from his toolbox, and 3 huge wins. Satyagraha wasn't just some lofty philosophy anymore. It was proving to be incredibly effective. Now, you can imagine, these victories, even though they were local, sent a real shockwave through the British establishment. Gandhi's methods were gaining traction. And the empire, feeling that its authority was being questioned, didn't respond by talking or negotiating. It responded with an iron fist. In March of 1919, they pushed through something called the Rowlatt Act. And this thing was a civil liberties nightmare. It gave the government the power to arrest anyone they even suspected of treason and imprison them for 2 years with no trial. For the average Indian, the sheer injustice of it all was summed up in one chilling phrase: no vakil, no dalil, no appeal. That means no lawyer, no argument, and no chance to appeal the decision. Gandhi immediately dubbed it the Black Act, and in protest, every single Indian member on the Imperial Legislative Council resigned on the spot. So Gandhi called for a nationwide shutdown, a hartal. Tensions were incredibly high. Then on April 13, 1919, during the festival of Baisakhi, thousands of people, men, women, and children, gathered for a peaceful protest in a walled garden in Amritsar called Jallianwala Bagh. A British general named Reginald Dyer marched his soldiers to the location, blocked the only way in or out, and simply ordered them to open fire on the crowd. They fired for 10 solid minutes. That number you're looking at, 1,650, that's how many bullets they fired into those unarmed people. The news of the massacre sparked absolute horror across the country and, really, the world. The celebrated poet Rabindranath Tagore sent back his knighthood, calling it a badge of shame. Gandhi returned the Kaiser-e-Hind medal the British had given him. But this was about more than gestures. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre was the point of no return. It completely destroyed any lingering trust in British justice. For Gandhi, a line had been crossed. Cooperating with a government he now saw as satanic was simply out of the question. Out of the tragedy of Jallianwala Bagh, a new plan began to form. It was also fueled by the Khilafat issue, which had angered India's Muslims because of how Britain was treating the Ottoman Caliph after World War I. So uniting these causes, a new strategy emerged. This wasn't going to be another small, local protest. This was going to be India's first ever nationwide mass movement, and it was designed to grind the entire British administration to a halt. The plan was actually stunning in its simplicity. It was a call for Indians to systematically and peacefully withdraw from every single institution that held up British rule. Students would walk out of government schools, lawyers would leave British courts, politicians would boycott the elections, people would stop buying British-made goods and start making their own. The idea was to dismantle the entire system, not with weapons, but by the whole country just refusing to play along anymore. And the response was absolutely massive. I mean, thousands of students left their colleges and enrolled in new national schools. Famous lawyers like Motilal Nehru and Vallabhbhai Patel just gave up their hugely successful careers. Huge bonfires were lit in public squares to burn piles of foreign-made cloth. People donated to a national fund, raising an incredible 1 crore rupees. This was way more than just a protest. It was like a parallel society was being built, a unified, nationwide act of defiance on a scale never seen before. So the movement was just gathering more and more steam. By the end of 1921, most of the leaders had been thrown in jail, and the pressure on Gandhi to kick off the final, most extreme phase, mass civil disobedience, including refusing to pay taxes, was immense. He actually gave the government an ultimatum. But before that ultimatum could even expire, something went horribly, horribly wrong. In a little town called Chowri, a group of protesters was marching peacefully when they were confronted by the police. Things got heated, the confrontation turned violent, and the mob, now enraged, chased the policemen back to the local police station. They then set the building on fire, killing all 22 officers trapped inside. In one single terrible act of violence, the most fundamental rule of the entire movement, nonviolence, ahimsa, was shattered. When Gandhi got the news, he was absolutely devastated. He felt that the people just weren't ready for a truly nonviolent struggle. He was convinced that if he let the movement continue in this climate of anger and revenge, it would just lead to more and more violence, followed by a brutal government crackdown. He later called his decision to launch the movement before people were fully trained in the principles of satyagraha a Himalayan blunder. And so he made a decision that shocked everyone. It angered many of his closest allies, people like Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose. All by himself, Gandhi made the call. He immediately suspended the entire non-cooperation movement, right at the moment when it seemed to be at its most powerful. So, looking back, what did this movement really accomplish? Well, its successes were huge. It brought the idea of independence out of the hands of a few elites and into the villages. It gave millions of people a new sense of defiance and courage. But the criticisms are serious too. Some say that by linking up with the religious Khilafat issue, it accidentally sowed seeds of division. And of course, the biggest critique is that he pulled the plug right at its peak, failing to deliver on the promise of Swaraj within a year. And that really brings us to the big question that historians still argue about today. Was Gandhi's decision a massive failure, a betrayal of the millions of people he had inspired? Or was it a brilliant strategic retreat? A painful, difficult choice that preserved the nonviolent soul of the movement, saving it so it could live to fight and win another day. It's a debate that gets right to the heart of who Gandhi was and what he was trying to achieve.